Let's look at Nigerian political landscape, sequel to the recent visit of Kwankwaso to Aso Rock. When the side are currently the way it stands, Tinubu seems to have broken the backbone of the Fulani and, of course, ended up in polarizing the North, having a better part of political elements from the Fulani to his side. We shall be looking at all the notable politicians, especially of Fulani extraction, who are currently working with Tinubu himself, and the ones who may be working with the man Atiku Abubakar. But as you have it, you have the likes of Rubadi, of course, who is the current National Security Advisor, a headman of the president. You equally have another big weight, talking about Baganduje, the former national chairman of APC. But the recent visit of Kwankwaso to Aso Rock, of course, if the Tinubu himself is able to close deal with him, it's going to be a game changer for the man Tinubu himself. And on the flip side, you have the likes of Erufai working with Atiku. And it's not even certain whether Erufai is working with Atiku, because some school of thought believe that Erufai is working for the man P2B, because Erufai at some point believe in power shift to the South to enable the South complete their 8 years tenure. So where the others leave the man Atiku? Atiku may become an orphan the way it is, because if eventually Erufai makes his position known abundantly that he's working for the man P2B, it's going to show that the battle is between a certain candidate on the flip side of opposition, coalition, and on the government side, the President Senator Amebola Tinubu. But before I go further, let me bring you the news leading to all of this. I am reading from the Punch newspaper. He said Tinubu Kwankwaso meet at Aso Rock. He go further to say that former Kano State Governor Rabiu Kwankwaso on Monday held a closed-door meeting with President Bola Tinubu at President's official residence. The meeting followed Kwankwaso's appearance at the opening of the Nigeria Forest Economic Summit 2025 held at the State House Conference Center, Abuja. It is the second public known encounter between the two men in just over 2 years. Their last recorded meeting in the Aso Rock Villa took place on June 9, 2023, days after Tinubu's inauguration, making Kwankwaso the first presidential candidate to visit the president. Addressing State House correspondents at the time, Kwankwaso said he discussed politics and governance with the president. He also said he might work with Tinubu, but did not state the details. Although Monday's meeting was not open to the press, the visit came only weeks after opposition African Democratic Congress announced a broad-based coalition aimed at challenging the ruling All Progressive Congress in the 2027 elections. Let me quickly say that clandestine meeting, though it was not made open, even the presidential handlers are not privy to what was discussed. But I must quickly say that it must not be unconnected with the issue that has to do with 2027 presidential election. Because though it is, before now, a Tinubu's camp was very comfortable, seeing that all the opposition, particularly from PDP in South, were already defecting to APC. So that, before now, gave him a very comfortable position. But seeing the opposition coming together recently, of course, under the new African Democratic Congress, that I see have rattled the presidency, and that may have informed this fresh move of trying to woo more politicians to his side, particularly from the northern part of the country. And where it is, I think just as some people will believe that Tinubu is a strategist, I think he's bringing that to bear. Looking at even strategic positions he has given to the North recently, including the first son of the former military ruler, talking about Ibrahim Badamashi Babangida. It's going to show that a Tinubu is not leaving anything to chance. Because the way it is, if you look at the North currently, the man Buhari is no longer in the picture. This is a man before now that commands 12 million votes in almost all the round of elections he participated, with the exception of 2011 election. Of course, for obvious reasons, a Northerner contested against him, talking about Yaradua. So, from what we are seeing, This is a new dynamics. This is a new strategy. All the positions, all the political parties, all the stakeholders are trying to see how they can strategize ahead of 2027. But one thing is clear, that the North must know that it is the turn of the South. Of course, let me quickly say that the South have their turn in Aso Rock until 2037. Of course, that is when, yes, 2031, that is when the South would have completed their, of course, 8 years in Aso Rock. But the way it is, and again, a further look at what is likely going to shape the 2027 presidential election has to do with even some notable northern figures, of course, advocating for southern candidacy. And of course, this is increasing the woe of the man, Atiku himself, who have long dreamt of becoming the Nigerian president. And of course, let us even take this one that is coming from Dati Baba Ahmed, of course, the vice presidential candidate to P2B in that 2023 presidential election, where he's advocating that the power should come to the South. We say vice presidential candidate of the Labour Party in 2023 pool, Mr. Dati Baba Ahmed, has hinted that the presidential ticket of the African Democratic Congress, African Democratic Party, ADC, may be zoned to the South. On Thursday, a coalition of opposition forces formally adopted ADC as its platform to challenge the ruling All Progressive Congress in the 2027 general election. So from what we are seeing, it's going to show that actually, of course, I read from the Vanguard, not the Punch. Of course, from what we are seeing, it's going to show that actually what is happening in the country is getting more interesting, because everybody, all the political parties, all their candidates, or rather will be candidates, or maybe you say will be aspirants, are already repositioning. But let me quickly say that if you want to be fair, you want to apply fairness, equity, and justice when it comes to this issue of zoning, I would say Southeast should have it. This is not far-fetched, because we understand that from inception of this national democracy in 1999 up to date, Southeast have not gotten an opportunity to govern the country. South have governed for 6 years. The North governed in the past for 8 years, and another 2 years of Yaradua. The South West already governed for 8 years in the past under Olusegun Obasanjo. But the Southeast have not governed. I understand that actually the Northeast, where Atiku Abubakar came from, have not actually governed. But if you look at governance in Nigeria generally, right from the inception of independence, of course, you understand that the North have had a considerable time to govern Nigeria. Or you may say to rule Nigeria, because it was under military rulership then. So I think the region or the geopolitical zone that is most justified to have a shot at Aso Rock currently is the southeastern part of the country. Because the way it is, Southeast have not governed in the past. And again, if you even just suppose that with the man who is from the South, is talking about P2B, who of course undoubtedly is the most qualified. Of course, Obi himself has said it recently, that he's the most qualified of all the aspirants to occupy the position come 2027, judging by his antecedents as a governor of Anambra State, judging by his disposition in civil course of governance, judging by disposition in prudent management of government resources, judging by his stance against corruption. Of course, it has been proven over and again, how he even rejected an air block, rejected a land allocation. So there is no doubt his credentials speaks volume in terms of his antecedents compared to other would-be candidates of this of the various political parties ahead of the 2027 presidential election. But the point here is very clear that Article 1 want to contest. He has made it very clear, abundantly clear, But the problem is the North must allow the South to complete their 8 years. I understand that someone like El-Rufai may have a genuine grievance against the president, Senator Tinubu, because we understand that actually in that 2023 presidential election, in the build-up to the primary of the party, talking about APC primary and even the general election, El-Rufai played a pivotal role in the emergence of Senator Tinubu, both at the level of candidates of the party and in the general election. During the Naira redesign policy, we saw El-Rufai was everywhere drumming support for strategies that will see Tinubu emerge victorious. However, the relationship turned sour after the emergence of Tinubu as the president. As we have it, the president, of course, did not give him the military appointment, and at the time, National Assembly cited security report, and as we have it, El-Rufai himself has come out clearly to say that there was nothing like security report that indicted him. That it was Tinubu himself that at the point did not want to serve his government, that he changed his mind. As such, that there was, but the point here is, it is irrespective of the grievance of an El-Rufai. He may be justified, like I just said, but that should not jeopardize the interest and the opportunity, not just opportunity, the position of the South in Aso Rock, because the North had their 8 years uninterrupted. The same thing is expected that the South should have their own. The only thing is that if the North is no longer comfortable with the man to do because of his policies, because of the hardship occasion by his policies, talking about subsidy removal of gasoline, talking about the education of first artificial window, talking about the suffering that comes with it, like I always say, there's an alternative in the person of P2B. Someone who have been proven to be competent in governance. So it is very clear that the North must allow the South to complete their own 8 years. And more so, as we've even seen some northern groups, civil organizations already drumming support for the Southern presidency. Because we have this one that goes by the name of South-North Progressive Forum, SNPF, and allies. Of course, it's a northern-led civil society grouping aligned with Atiku El-Rufai and aligned with Atiku El-Rufai coalition. And it is talking about zoning the position to the southern part of the country. So I think the way it is becoming very clear that if eventually the coalition zone their presidency, the presidential ticket to the South, it will turn out that in the 2027 election, you have two Southerners contesting that election. And if that is the case, you are likely going to have the man P2B and the man Senator Tinubu, of course, the current president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, contesting in that election. We understand that in that last election, the major challenge we had as a people was INEC, because INEC at a point was given the discretionary power, liberty, to determine the mode of transmission of election results. And as we have it, they didn't just get that liberty until Nigerian stakeholders put pressure on National Assembly to amend the Electoral Act. So the Electoral Act in a way compared INEC, or rather confers the power of discretion on INEC. But what Nigerians were looking for is a situation where the election result will be transmitted electronically. I think Section 82 of the Electoral Act is one that deals with this issue. But as you have it, even as INEC paraded the power of that liberty, that discretionary power, at the nick of time during that 2023 presidential election, they reneged and they gave excuse of network glitch. The rest is history. Because we understand that PDP and its candidate, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, Labour Party and its then candidate, P2B, contested the result up to Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court has legitimized the election of Senator Tinubu as the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. But the point here is, if we are going into another round of election without electoral act that is susceptible to manipulation, of course, we may come back to still start saying the same thing. That is where stakeholders must rise and put pressure on National Assembly to do the needful. And this time around, to do the needful have to do with to further amend that Electoral Act, particularly Section 82 that deals with the mode of transmission of election results. That is why, for me, I have not seen seriousness on the part of the opposition political leaders. Call it Atiku, call him Erufai, whether P2B, whether Malami, whether the former Babachilawa, the former Secretary of Federal Government, and all of that. Because the whole essence of coalition, the whole essence of alliance will not achieve any meaningful results if the Electoral Act is not further amended to give us free, fair, and credible election. Because if you see allow INEC to parade the discretionary power, the liberty to determine the mode of transmission of election results, definitely will come back after the election to start saying the election was manipulated. Because the Nigerian politician, once there's a lacuna in the system, in the Electoral Act, the Nigerian politician that had the privilege, or rather the advantage of the system, will always make use of it. We always take advantage of it. We understand that when it comes to election management, the police, the DSS, the army, even the umpire, the INEC that conducts the election, that is even the end user of the Electoral Act, they are all in a way answerable to the executive. So the only way you can reduce interference with the system is to ensure that you reduce human interference. And the best way to reduce that human interference is to ensure that you transmit the election results electronically. Anything outside that will make rubbish of all the whole effort put in place to do the election. I must say very thank you for your time. This is Lamida Samatu.